Hello everyone, my name is Benjamin Hamula. I'm from Arab descent, currently living in Birmingham, United Kingdom, best city in the UK. My contribution to the track and what moved me, it's a touchy subject. It's something close to heart. I come from an Arab background, so I've experienced, some form of racism, in my childhood. I think many will maybe relate. But seeing it affect someone of a different race, different culture based on the color of their skin, it's painful. It's painful to watch, knowing that this is a project that is for a good cause, something that will bring life, something that will promote unity, bring people together rather than divide them, is something that I will forever stand with.
Hello there, my name is Tekla D. Sena and I'm from Birmingham. I am of Caribbean descent, actually mixed heritage of both Caribbean and partially British descent, here today to talk about One Heart, song One Heart, and the movement as a whole. I think it's an amazing movement. I think it's necessary. I think especially in this time, since everything that's been happening this year with George Floyd and all those types, all of the things that have happened around the Black Lives Matter movement. For myself personally, the whole situation with George Floyd, I really kind of held off watching that for some time, because obviously it's very difficult thing to see, and sadly to see that it's still happening. Because of some of the work that I do, I've really looked into the history of racism among the Caribbean and African and against the African, yeah, it's definitely the time is now to see that change, because it's a terrible thing, for a person to be hated or to be looked down upon based purely on just their color of their skin. It's something that people can't control. So to think that someone would judge someone based just on that, at any time in history, really is quite it's a shame. It's a shame.
I think it's very necessary, especially when you're not of that race or not of, that color of skin, because my silence will be a part of the problem. My silence will either display that I'm agreeing or disagreeing. And I think that's a problem that we have in the Arab world, that not many, with the influence that they have, the position that they have, not many in the Arab community, in the Arab world, actually will stand for something like this when they actually should. So I think the voice of Arab people should be a lot louder.
Hello to you all. I'm Michael. I am 29 years old. I was born in London, raised in Birmingham, England. My family have lived here since the 60s, and they came over. My great grandfather on my mum's side and my grandma and my granddad on my dad's side came over in I think it was the 50s actually, not the 60s. And so I am a third gen, and my mum and my dad have both experienced, their whole lives have experienced a lot of racism. My mum's mum, my dad's mum and dad also experienced that when they came over. And I believe that racism really hasn't been dealt with. It's not really been addressed as it is right now. I believe that since May this year, that was when we first really started to look into it and address, the underlying issues, the real truths behind what exactly we are facing. And me as a person, I myself have experienced a lot as well, and I found myself for about a month really thinking, through and about my experiences, about how I've been dealt with wrongly simply because of the fact that I'm black. And I started to think about all of these things, and it just started to fill me up with like an anger, like like a pain or a rage. It started to just really start to make me angry. You know, that we have to sort of experience life being attacked, you know, being oppressed, being hated on for no reason really, but just the color of our skin or where we're from. It hurt me, sort of exposed like a pain in me that I didn't actually know was there. It exposed a pain in me that I was hiding for a while. And yeah, I believe that songs like One Heart, that they're just really important because of one thing. Truth and freedom is exposing truth for the goal of freedom. That we are asking for freedom. We are asking for the world to see truth, and that is we are all one. We are all one, and the words of this song are so on point. They're so right. They're so true. They're so genuine expression of my heart, that we are all one, all the same. I've been near, I've been far, I've been east, I've been west, I've been all around the world, but we are all the same.
The reasons as to why racism has continued so long and has really gone so many generations is really because of the root of it. I think when I look into history, we see that this type of ideology of race and judging a person's value based on their race goes far back as the Greeks, you know. And I was watching something the other day, and it was really speaking about, you know, the situation of the Europeans, because, you know, no person is inherently racist. You know, it's a taught behavior, something that people have to be taught of how to treat people. As we see, children don't judge on the race until they're taught that's how they should value. But when we look at the Greeks and we see that the discussion of leadership and all these things, that is really the beginning of the idea of where colour and different physical traits and attributes are being linked to leadership and value, you know, which obviously just isn't true. In actual fact, it's so not true, in that the Greeks themselves learnt most of what they understand and know from the Egyptians, you know, who themselves were people of colour. So we see that the idea is really one that isn't, it just isn't true by nature, you know. But I feel like it's gone on for so long because the people and the communities today, we don't know that history. We don't even know where we've gained some of this understanding from, especially the Europeans themselves, worse than anybody. Because we don't know the history of how we've come to understand or think this way, you know, so we're not actually fighting against it. You know, internationally, black, white, Asian, every single person should really be against the idea of racism. You know, I'll say there's a quote from the Emperor of Ethiopia, Emperor Selassie, and he says that until the colour of a man's skin is no more important than the colour of his eyes, the world shall not know peace. You know, because the truth of it is that we are all made, as the song says quite well, we're one heart, one people, one blood, and one earth. So when we see it's not one, it's not your history or my history, it's our history, it's world history. So when we start to look at history in that way, we look at the world in that way, we'll see we've got 100% much more in common than we actually have that divides us. And if we focus on what we have in common, then will be much harder to divide us. So then that really brings you around to the idea of, you know, maybe the black people themselves, the people who have been victims of this kind of racism and behaviour. Can we just change it in an instant? No, I don't think it's as simple as that. But is there things that we can do, as well as every other community can do, playing our position within the world as it stands, to fight against racism and the issues that we're all facing internationally? You know, we definitely can. You know, especially as a black community, there's more that we can do, that we can learn, and to operate as a community again. Some of the things that I think sadly we may have lost throughout the transatlantic slave trade and otherwise, we've lost some of this communication, some of this these abilities to value ourselves, you know, and to value each other. So I definitely think there is stuff that we as a community can do. There are a lot that we as a community can do, but then there's also a lot that every community can do to speak life and to actively, positively change, you know, the condition of the world today.
My name's Aim Square. I'm from Birmingham, United Kingdom. My family is originally from Jamaica. Parents were born here. Grandparents from Jamaica. They came over when they were invited to this country, the UK, in the 1950s. After the Second World War, my family, my grandparents came over to this country to make a life for themselves. They were invited in, so England was opened up to the Caribbean to help rebuild the country after the war. And my parents, or my grandparents, came in. Growing up in their times, they experienced a lot of challenges, difficulties, as you would, immigrating from another country, coming into this country. They were different. They didn't look like the ones that were here before them. So because of that difference, the differences were pointed out, let's say. They were picked on, marginalised, mainly fear, misunderstanding. They were misunderstood, they were feared because of that unknowingness of them. They're not really used to them, these people, their particular customs, their particular culture. They're not really used to these Jamaican people, how they go on. Don't really understand them. So it's easier to make fun of other people or to pick on them, to persecute them, than it is to relate to them, to get to know them. It's easier to put down than it is to accept or embrace. When you're fear driven, when you are scared of other people, it's easier to push them away than it is to overcome the fear with the truth.
The message that I contributed is at the end of the track, and it's all in Arabic. In a nutshell, it's just displaying, you know, the concern that, you know, what racism actually is, you know, that it is a disease in man's heart, you know, that it is not something that is, you know, natural, something that we should have in us, but it's something that needs to be removed out. And Arab people need to hear it, you know, the Arab world needs to hear it, and who better than from an Arab's voice? So, yeah, definitely black people. I've seen many affected based on, you know, their belief systems, based on the color of their skin, where they are from. But specifically black people, it has always been magnified. It's always more. It's too far. It's too much. And I think that I've seen a lack of unity, a lack of togetherness, you know, within the community. I can easily look at, you know, Asian background. I'm from the Middle East, born and raised, and I can easily say that when one person struggles, you know, everybody comes together to push the person. Everybody comes and stands in unity. You will never, in Iraq, before the war, in Iraq, there were no homeless people on the street. It wasn't allowed. And that's something that I'd love to see more. That when you see your fellow black people, your black brother, your black sister, struggling in any area or having a business or having whatever it might be, you should stand behind them, you should support them, you should protect them, you should stand with them and push them forward, you know, push them even further higher. If they're going up, push them even higher. Uniting for the right cause, you know, listening to this song and listening to the words of this song, what does it actually mean? If you was to really take time and listen to it, you will know that it promotes nothing else but unity, you know, nothing else but togetherness, something positive, something right. How can you not get behind something like
One
this?
heart, one nation, one people, we are called to be. And that's the heart of the message, it's the chorus of the song. And this is the crux of the movement. That we are one people, we're one nation, we're a human nation living on this world that we call planet Earth. We're all the same, to be honest. If you cut me, I'll bleed the same as you, and vice versa. There's no difference. We have a lot of similarities, We have differences, but then we have a lot of similarities as well. You shouldn't be scared of my differences, and I shouldn't be scared of yours. And what this project seeks to do is to unite us all on this human basis and combat the stigmas and the issues to do with racism. And we're coming together as a people, not just as a black voice, not just as a white voice, not just as an Asian voice or any other voices that are affected by racism, but we're coming together as one voice.
It says that a picture says 1,000 words, and I looked at the shots. The word, I believe it is spelled R-A, and it's got an X and then S-M. If I can show you this, it's such a simple thing, but it's such a strong thing. The X shows, you know, that racism needs to be stopped. So we need to put a cross on it. We need to stop racism, and that was the overwhelming feeling that this song gave to me, that, you know, we need to stop racism. And the fact that we were all in this, we all had this on, we all stood there and wore that. Just actually made me feel like we're finally on the right track. We're finally standing on the same page. We're finally trying to do something to just stop this evil, this thing that has scourged us. We need to stop racism.
I think if you were to watch the video, if you was to see the visuals, if you were listen to the words of the song, you will see that this is an opportunity, you know, a great catalyst that will provoke conversation in the home. It will provoke people having a deep conversation that they may not necessarily discuss, you know, outside, because of fear, because of you know, not being judged or not knowing what to say, saying the right thing, being politically correct. This can provoke that conversation at home and can lead to asking the right questions, in which then can now change the minds of certain people who think a certain way, who have always been inclined a certain way, thinking that they know the right way. This can help bring clarity by us exposing it more, displaying it more. And you see the diversity in the video. You see all different backgrounds, different races, different people from all around the world. And this can be that project, this can be that thing that will spark that change. As a world, as a people, we can definitely get behind specific certain black individuals that are creating a positive change, that are doing and having a great impact on the world and the community today. There are many that I can highlight, many that I can point out that I think will be a great leader, a great asset, you know, to the black community and to the rest of the world. If this was in an Asian community, people from my background, if one person was doing something of this magnitude, something of, you know, this capacity, man, the whole country, the whole nation will back them. In my community, we would support all the way, we would go all out. Whereas in this day and age, I feel this kind of a issue, this kind of a project needs to be supported by its own even more, needs to be pushed by its own people even more.
Within our community, the reaction towards a song like this and a project that seeks this level of change, you know, should be positive. You know, it should be supportive. You know, it should really seek to encourage the people that are willing, those that are willing to join the project and supporting it. Yeah, we should support them more, really. You know, seeing that this is a game, this is making sure that the discussion doesn't get lost in the emotion. You know, so I think we should really support the song. I think the community should support the song, regardless of who or where it's come from. You know, we shouldn't let those types of small differences overcome our great unified purpose. You know, our purpose is really to see the world changed, you know, to see these prejudiced and these racist types of attitudes, you know, which is only killing the world, change, you know, and really know that this song is supporting us, so we should really support the song. And the One Heart song is really just part of a greater movement. You know, the One Heart movement is a collection of products, merchandise, also a podcast, you know, to really help the discussion to continue, you know, and not to end prematurely. Again, as I said, this is why it's so different and so important, beyond just marching, beyond just protesting. You know, now this is about us representing, you know, it's representing the direction that the world needs to go, the direction that the human race needs to move, you know, and really just just supporting the discussion, you know, and helping people to continue to have this discussion, you know, long into the future.
Racism, let's X out racism for good. After the protests are finished and after the media chooses not to broadcast it anymore, let the conversation still continue. Let your friends and your friends' friends know that racism isn't cool. Let the people that you're associated with, your bosses, those that would employ you, those that you would go to school with, say, no, racism isn't cool. Racism shouldn't be tolerated. And racism shouldn't be promoted. And you yourself should be aware of racism. Be aware of it as a victim. And be aware of it as somebody who is an aggressor towards it. We shouldn't promote it on any level but condemn it. And this is what this movement should seek to do. Racism, we want to speak against it, we want to eradicate it.